And I'm live. That is pretty cool. Today is 17th of February 2026, Tuesday. And with that, let's begin Los Gates. Okay. So what do we have? There are, first of all, some updates in the Vim. And there has been a lot of, not the actual work, but work to fix the loopholes or bugs which will arise. Yep. And now we actually have to work on the engine. And yes, yesterday we established how the board is going to be represented in memory. How the board is going to be represented in memory. This just looks like very attractive, this competitive programming stuff. How the board is going to be represented and how we are going to represent the moves in the board. Yep. Is player playing? Okay, yep. These are all the verifications that must be made on the back end when a move is sent from the player to the back end. Hello. Shit, you were just replying to my reply. That is some, yeah, I guess 69 stuff. Yeah. Which reply? Shit, on Discord. Okay. Okay, and I would like to make some comment. There have been changes and get diff game view. Yep, some refactoring. There has been a lot of refactoring. Yep, re refactoring. Uh, game in memory in memory game representation in memory game representation. What does it mean? And yep, hello. What are here backend? Okay, so these functions have to be common so that the front end and the backend both get access to them. Game.ts init board to initialize the board. And what is the interface for the board? Interface for the board is user Zod, game Zod types. Wait, game.ts, yep, game.ts. This is the interface for a singular board. You don't need this. Database interfaces, yep, cool. Okay, board. This thing returns a list of this, but we want to return a list of exactly 8 elements. But how do we do this? How to initialize a list of exactly 8 elements in JavaScript? On this list in with some sizes on DC. Okay, the basic implementation of the printing functions are done. Tabular printing, showing information, and prog. Wait, how like how can you start working on the printing functions when you are not sure how the input is going, how the input is expected, like which format you will get the input in, right? So just need to integrate the callback to the main operation output function. Yep, like you do not know, you know what the mm, progress bar at the bottom will show, but what it is going to get, what is the format that it is expecting, right? But if you have already written the function, maybe whatever the format is, which you will take from the Pacman code, you will add some in between layer which will convert that input format into the format that is expected by your function, and everything works. Something like that. Array.size.fill. Okay, that seems simple enough. Array.size.fill equals array, read an array dot size 8, not 8. First comes row size, which is 8, and yep, which is 8. But we are saying array dot size does not exist. Of course it does not. Like this. Let board of type board equal array row size dot fill initial value. Fill initial value. Initial value is going to be another array whose size is column size dot fill pieces dot n. Init board is declared, but its value is not used. Return board. One error is fixed, but the other export. In here we can give in the type array of pieces, like how many pieces? How many pieces? Let me ask ChatGPT. Here I want to specify that the inner array is going to have a certain number of elements and not random and not a random size. Right now you are doing this, yep, which just says that the outer array has an array which has pieces. And this has two separate problems. First, fill puts the same inner, and also there is another bigger problem. Since we have made the size of the columns and row a variable, but here we have fixed these two. So these two column and row sizes should be imported here, and yeah, and they should have a specified size. But here we are repeating. Can we do row dot? We cannot do anything on this. Row size and column size, import both. Import both. How do we say, like we were facing the same problem yesterday, but then we just yep, integration is left. We were facing the same problem yesterday, but we just like manually hand coded that there are going to be 8 and the board is going to be 8 by 8 here. Uh, Manually getting that there are going to be 8 pieces in a row, but I want to have a variable which defines how many people there are going to be in a row. R and a variable define this. This is a TypeScript problem. You wrote this. Yep. Tuples are fixed at compile time. This is not a tuple, this is a type, because variants exist at runtime, but you can use a generic number type. That makes sense. Create a fixed length array type. Okay, we have a type fixed length array which takes in t, n extends number, r extends t. This equals, this is pure TypeScript. What this does, it recursively builds a tuple, stops when length reaches n. Then step 2, use it. N extends number, type row, fixed length pieces, n. Pieces are going to be internally present, and n extends number. Now you can do chessboard equals board 8. Okay, and TypeScript will enforce important limitation. This works only when n is a literal type. This works, but concept, this does not work. Type of size won't behave as you expect unless you do this as 8 as const and then give here type of size, because as const keeps it as a literal 8, not as a number. A literal is required inside this n extends number for board. And what is this behemoth of a thing? Again, what is this? What is this? Explain this. Let's see. Yo, Thorfinn. Hello. Uh, I don't think you have any enemies. I was thinking of creating a chess engine in Go, and this stream popped up. Yo, wait, that would be cool. Creating a chess engine. How would you go about it? There is the traditional way where you do alpha beta pruning and calculate to some limit, of course, all the possible moves and choose the move which gives you the best possible results after like 5 or 10 moves according to your depth. Or there is a neural network way, like how AlphaGo works. So it would be cool. And you are using Go. Go is cool. Let's dissect it slowly and mechanically. You are looking at this. Okay, yep. What is happening here? Like, what the hell is this? At first glance, it looks like black magic. Yes, it does. Black Magic Studios. It isn't. It is just recursive type construction. Recursive type construction. What is this thing? Big picture. Okay. This type builds a tuple like this n times. Yes, that is correct. R length. It does this by starting with an empty tuple, adding 1t, checking the length, repeating until length equals n. It basically a for loop. Step by step. Okay. The generic parameter t, the type of each element. Yep. First thing is the type of each element. Then n, the number. N extends number. The target length is the second argument. Y extends number because TypeScript needs to restrict n to numeric types. Makes sense, so that we are not saying that the size of our string is going to be 5, Five, 5, not 5. Yeah. Okay, R extends T. This is the accumulator. R is the tuple being built. It starts as empty. Each recursion adds T, extends the tuple of T equal to this. What does this mean? Think of this like this. R extends tuple or a list of type T equal to this. This does not make sense. The core logic is this: r dot length extends n. If length of r extends n, like is if the length of r is greater than n, then return r, or if not, then call this thing again, but r is r, and this will extend. What is the progress, man? Yep, progress is um user can create their ID and all that basic stuff. And right now we are at a stage where we have our backend. A user can come, create ID and everything, and create a socket connection telling the server that they want to play a game of some specific type, and the backend has an in memory object which stores the list of all the users who want to play some specific game of some specific type. And whenever another user comes who also wants to play this game of same type, like a rapid, with the same time limits, then these two will start playing a game. And that is the thing that we have to write now. So we have socket connections, and we have to listen for moves, validate the whole move. This through this process, check is the player playing a game, get the ID of the opponent, get the opponent socket, whose move this current move is, who is playing this current move, validate the move, and if the move is possible, then tell the current player that their move has been accepted, and update the game state which is inside memory. Yep. But this sounds simple from an abstract point of view, but deciding what this in-memory list is going to look like, and how to efficiently fetch games and manage all of this, and also what if while some player, let's say, said that they want to play a game of some specific type, rapid, let's say, and then they closed their socket connection, then what happens? Their name is still in the list, so we have to remove it. And also, if two players are in a game and then the socket closes, what happens? Generally, in chess.com, if your internet goes out and then you come back again, I think you can, there is a time limit of 10 to 15 seconds. And if you come back within that time limit, you will be able to join the game, continue the game from where you left. But if you come after that, you lose the game. But here, what I have decided is if your connection goes out, then you lose. The other player wins and they get the winning message. And now we have to actually work on the game logic. And right now I am writing out the in-memory representation for the board. How is the backend going to remember what the board looks like? And it is going to be a 2D matrix of pieces. Pieces is our enum, which represents all the pieces. Fixed length array. What this syntax is crazy. Okay, I will get to this. I will learn about this when I will read about TypeScript. For now, we can copy paste this. Equals fixed length array, which will have pieces, row row size. But row size refers to a value. Did you mean type of row size? Type of row size is pool, they say. Wait, eight. Cool. And then let's put board, fixed length array, row, type of column size. Okay, seems good enough. Target requires 8 element. Okay. At least we have say solved one part of the problem, and now this initialize board and yep, initialize board. How do we say give the size here? And how do we give the size in the type? Yep, how do we problem one shared inner array. Subtle but dangerous. All rows shit that is bad. All rows point to the same or inner column, which is bad, which is bad. Shit. Okay, this is bad. Then that is correct way. What would be the correct way? To use dot from. Each row is separate. Okay. About specifying the inner array size. Yes. How do we specify the size? The TypeScript cannot enforce dynamic numeric length at compile time. This means an array of pieces of length. This TypeScript does not track runtime lengths. If you want fixed length at type level, then you need type tuples like this manually. Okay, we do have type tuples. Now TypeScript enforces size strictly, but that only works when size is known at compile time. It would be known. Yep, type board. Then your best option is to use type board and enforce size logically at construction. That makes sense. That does make sense. That does make sense. That does shit. Yep, that does make sense. Here, okay. Board or type board, and we will here say here say row as of type pieces list and export type board as row list. That is cool. And here board would be equal to array from length as row size, and should I think the second argument has to be the function. Yep. Dot from the second argument is a function. Second argument is a function. Array dot from length not 8 column size, and this thing returns an array. Wait, this is not an cool, and at the end return board. Cool. That was initialize an empty board. Shit, why would we initialize an empty board? That does not make sense. Shit, we have to initialize a board. Yep, new him. Let's go like all the way new him. We do. Right now the board is just a 2D matrix of pieces of type NN, which does not make sense because initially the board is going to have a structure. It has a specific structure where we have in the board rook and yeah, rook and then rook, knight, bishop, queen, king. I think queen is on the left. If this is the white side, 0, A, 1, 2, 3 till 8, I think, and rank. Shit, I messed up. This is A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, G, H, and this is 1. This, okay, yes, this does not start from 0. This is not computer science. It starts from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Yep. Just to check. When, can we get a board here? Yep. Yes, A, B, C, D till H and 1, 2, 3, 4 till 8. Hmm. A. Hmm. Okay. Now, since this is going to be a 2D matrix, instead of these numbers from 1 to 8, we will be using numbers from 0 to 7. And here also, instead of A to H, we will be using numbers from 0 to 7. Maybe we can write a function which takes in these numbers from 1 to 8 and E to H and gives us the equivalent matrix columns, or we can just work with the matrix columns directly. I think we can work with the matrix columns directly. It would be cool. Okay, so initialize the board. Get the board, set pieces, and since we are going to be racist, we will treat 0 A, we will treat 0 0, the point 0 0 in the matrix, as 0 as 1 A, which also makes sense, like smallest and smallest. Okay, and this has to be manual. I don't think we can do this without being manual. Board 0 0 is going to be just dot white rook is going to come there. Board 0, the same row, but yes, the same row, but the next column is going to be pieces white. Knight is by n. Board, and also the possibly it is not undefined. This is not undefined. How do we tell this? Sorry. Okay, how do we tell this thing that this is not undefined, because we just created this array beforehand? Uh, time we can just write TypeScript, ignore the next two lines. That would work. But no, we will have like 16 lines for each pieces. ChatGPT was saying something before. Keep the board type pieces like this, and then initialize this properly, which take, yep, but then before making any changes to this, we have to tell, okay, uh, this function returns board type, but yes, states that the rows might be undefined and therefore before accessing any piece, I have to check whether the rows are defined or not, even though they are. How do I tell TypeScript that the rows are defined and the size of the matrix is 8 by 8 or whatever the input was. When you write something like this, TypeScript thinks a row might be undefined, therefore this when we go to a specific column of a specific row which might not be defined, this might explode even if you know the board. Why? Because TypeScript thinks that pieces is a 2D matrix, which just might mean anything at all. An array of arrays, an array of arrays of pieces of unknown length. Arrays in JavaScript are dynamic, indexable with any number, not guaranteed to contain an element at that index. So board 100 is legal. At runtime, it just returns undefined. Yep, TypeScript models that possibility. The real issue, even if you construct it like this, with the specific length, the type is still this. Yep, that means things might be undefined for some specific number. TypeScript cannot infer fixed length from array.from because length is a runtime property. That makes sense. That makes sense. Types are compile time only. If you truly want 8 by 8 guarantees, then we must do something like this. Okay. This works because the tuple size is known at index, so we will have to do this and infer this as board. Okay, shit. Okay, this TypeScript thing, this I do not understand. This I will read about at some point. Equals fixed length array pieces of size row type of row size. Cool. And this thing is going to be fixed length array row with the capital R type of column size. Input this as okay. We just had to do as board. Okay, board 0 2 after night. We have the white bishop. Board 0 3. Now I have to check. Either we have a queen after this. We do have the queen. Then the king. Queen is always in the D file. White queen and board 0 4 equals white king and board 0 5 white bishop again and board 0 6 pieces of white knight and then board 0 7 would be white rook and Similarly, shit. Substitute. I think we can just do 0 with this would be the last one. So 7. Yeah. And instead of capital W, these are black pieces. Substitute capital W with black. Yeah, cool. And now the fonts. Hmm. Can there be a fill no, board one fill? Yes, fill. Fill pieces start and pieces fill this with white font from 0 till 7. 7 is the last one. And I think if you were to say 8, wait, okay, it just works. Is the second index going to be included or not? Start, end. I think if we don't give a start and end, it just fills the whole thing, which is what we want. Here, 6, fill this with black lines. We do have the whole board. Cool. Do we need something else? Nope, we do have the whole board. Let's also have a function which prints the board in the terminal. It would just be helpful at times. Print board, this takes like a board of like board, a function to print the board. Yep. And I or let I do we need index? We do not need we do not need index. Yep. For let x and for row and of board for row of board and for let piece of board piece of row see out set no console.log piece pieces bracket piece and plus space and not a new line. How to stop a new how to not name new console.log using console.log. Output is this and how to not print new line. Okay, process.output.write this exact thing. Process.stdout.write. Okay, so now console.log we will have process.std two string does not make sense for process to be two string. What kind of process do we have? Variable Zord. Process is not a Zord type. Uh, avoid printing or escape, no character, and one. Console.log, no, how to not print, no, and one. Using the new line, not print is the thing that I asked for. Break line, process.std.out, process without automatic new line. If you are using this, this does not automatically add a new line. One dot write for perform. Okay, key difference, length handling and performance for high file writing. One dot write to standard output text. Okay, let's use this then. Standard out. What do we want to write? Pieces, piece plus space, write, and we'll use one, write, two, standard output, new line. That should be printing the board. Let's see how that goes. To the back end APIs, game start. Here is the main juice. Console.log this. Okay. And whenever a message comes, let's say we will get a board or also shit. This has to be both. Database, no. APIs, go to this API. Okay, here board. Where is the board type? Init board. It is a type of board. Type of board is pieces, a lot of pieces. Okay, we get our board and then print board given the random board. And then back. Okay, let's see. Are we able to print the board and stuff? We what? Hello, content factory. I have a question. Do you forget syntax also sometimes? Sorry if it is. Why would it ever be inappropriate to ask? Yes, yes, like of course, when I go and edit some new Vim, I forget the syntax, and even for C++, sometimes I forget the syntax, so it is normal to look up, no problem. Suggest me a resource to practice Python problems. For Python problems, you can, if you want, just solve lead code or code forces problems with Python. That that would be helpful. What do you mean by problem? If you want to learn it, build some project, that is it. Okay, and that is also one way. For me, my C++ is, I'm very familiar with C++ now because of the problems that I have solved in C++ in code forces. And I would suggest if you want to become familiar with Python, you can do the same with either lead code or code forces. Connect. Connection is made, and if we send a message, hi, move received. Okay, white. Shit. Okay, yes, it will print from the top. White will be at the top. So okay, this is amazing. White rook. there. Then white's knight, white's bishop, white's queen. Yep, this is in the wrong way. We do not want to print it like this. This is printed in upside down. So we would like to change the order in which the board is being printed. So instead of, yeah, we have to go by index. I equals, this is not C++. Let I equals row size. We will first go, yeah, row size -1, while I greater than equal to 0, I minus minus. And same for here with column size, cool, for 0. And internally, instead of one write this here, we will say write pieces. Because I am getting a call, let me just put my phone on work. This is very professional. Here, instead of pieces, this we will go to board I j. Object is possibly undefined. Board ij is possibly undefined is what you are saying. Shit, it might be pieces. Now it is still possibly undefined. Shit. Board ij. What is board ij is possibly undefined? How is it possibly undefined? Board ij, how can it be possibly undefined? Row size. Straight. And so we have to check if I is smaller than equal to 8, and I has to be smaller than 8, smaller than 8, and I greater than equal to 0, and j also is smaller than 8 and greater than equal to 0. Then this works. Then still this does not work. J. Okay, still this does not work. Yeah. Why undefined error? Type undefined cannot be indexed. Okay. So they are saying board I might be undefined, and then we are indexing that undefined object and trying to go to the J part of this undefined object, which can be wrong, but I is always in the range. I smaller than 8. Okay, shit. No, we were in the insert mode. Okay. Column size. No. Does not work. Wait, instead of checking this, we can say I is smaller than board dot length. Okay, and this thing j is smaller than board I dot length. Board I might not be defined, but board I is smaller than length. Board dot length -1. While I is shit. Shit. Yes, we can here say int and yes, row and let's say column and here we'll say int and that is fine. In row, nope, and not in row. Board how to traverse list in opposite order in TypeScript when we do know the length of the list. For loop, but TypeScript is saying that the item might not exist. Using reverse. Okay, instead here for let I equals row size minus 1, I greater than equal to 0 and I minus if board I is not equal to and define which it is not equal to, then for int I let it equals column size minus 1 while b greater than equal to 0 and g minus then one dot right one dot standard out and here board I j might be undefined. Shit. TypeScript no overload matches this. Console.log, let's say board I is not undefined. Object is possibly undefined. Which object? Board I. It is not possibly undefined because we are here checking. There is something wrong with this. If board I is not equal to undefined, then go into board I. But still they are saying possibly undefined. That does not make sense. That legit does not make sense. Shit. Why am I getting error here that would I might be undefined when I am checking before and that would I is not undefined. That does not make sense. Why this? This TypeScript still says board I might be undefined. You are thinking I literally just checked it. Yep. The real reason is this is about control flow, narrowing and axis index. When you write this, TypeScript does not cache the result. Each board I is treated as a fresh lookup. Is interpreted more like this is not equal to okay new lookup. Okay, the correct way would be if row is not equal to undefined. Row equals board I and here if row is not equal to undefined then okay that works. One dot Right, right to where, right to one dot std out, standard out. One dot right, right to standard out. One file is missing. We are legit here saying that type to one standard out. Process dot is standard out. Nope. One dot right, one dot std out, and then the text. Okay, that works. Pieces row j plus space. Type undefined can be used, cannot be used as our index. Shit. TypeScript is can be very bad. Const piece equals row j. If yep, yep, const piece is equal to row j, and here we use piece piece question mark. If piece is not equal to undefined, then use piece. Otherwise, use let's say 0. That is good enough. And then one dot right, one dot standard out, right, and right. Run the backend, make connection, send message. We should ah, shit. One right to standard output plus this. Okay, this will come here. Connect, shit, connect, send stuff. Yep, this is the boot. White rook, white knight, white bishop, white king. That is wrong. White king is not what we should be getting. We are printing this in reverse. We are printing this in reverse. So here this should start from 0 while j is smaller than column size j plus plus. Start server, connect, send message, and white rook, knight, bishop, queen, king, bishop, knight, rook. Okay, we do have our initial board which looks good, so good enough. That is good enough. And what else? Now we can move on actually to here. Okay, when we do get a move, when we get a move, what are our first steps? Is if player is not playing a game, if data dot is game queue, is user queue, nope, is user playing, is user playing, which user, ws dot data dot user dot user id, or we should just get all of this beforehand. User id, user name, and color of the user. User id, username, color of the user, and time in and input equals reverse dot data dot user. Good. And here say user ID is this user. When this user is not playing, then before closing the connection, send a message. First of all, print console.log that user. Wait, no, do not print, just send ws dot send back, not a message like this, an object, error, true, accepted, false, yep, accepted, false, error, true, accepted, false, and return. Right, so first we have checked if the user is playing or not playing. Now we have to, there were steps. If the user is playing, check get opponent ID, uh, data dot get opponent, opponent user ID equals get opponent ID with the current user's ID. We want the opponent's ID, and what else do we need? Get opponent's socket const opponent socket is data dot get you socket using the user ID. Give the opponent user ID. Argument of type string null. So they are saying opponent user ID could be string or null. It should not be. So we will just in case check if this thing is not equal to undefined, then give this, otherwise give 1 to the 4. Random number does not matter. Okay, here get user data and check if the user is playing game. If user is playing, and then get opponent data. After that, when we have the opponent ID, opponent socket, whose move, get the move number. Yes, for this we have to ah, shit. Yep. We need to also have the game object. We also have to initialize the game object. For that, we have to decide what the game object is going to look like. Game interface common in the commons. We have the board, which is being imported, and our functions, a function to initialize the board and a function to print the board. Okay, and the game object which is legit going to store the move the move number and everything, is it required on the front end also? I think it would be required on the front end also. Yep, it would be required on the front end, so it should be available on the front end as a interface. Game.ts here, it is game object which has a board of type board and move of type move, move which will just give us the count of this move. And shit, we also have to store the time at which a certain move was played. How are we going to store the time in memory? This has to be a bit more complicated than I thought. Game object should also store the move, not just the move number, but also the time at which move was played. Okay, so there is going to be a list times, which is going to be a list of numbers, which will store. And also what is the current time for both the players, and it has to be ticking. It legit has to be ticking. And shit, yep, these things are required. And then white time, and this will not store how much time is remaining. Shit, yes, this will store how much time is remaining. White time left number, and black time left number. White time black times move number. We'll have the board move number, white times black times white times left, black times left. Okay, and these are going to be in seconds. Times are in seconds, like yes, just in case. Time is in second. Time left is self-explanatory, and this list time from the start when the move was played. Either we can have two lists like this, or we can have a single list. We can have a single list to which we will just keep adding. Yes, we will have a single list. Yes, we will have a single list. Makes sense. Cool. Move times. Most times. Makes sense. Okay. Most times. Move number. I don't even think that we need move number now because we can just check moves times. The size of moves times. If it is 0, then it is move number 0, and so on. And before continuing, I would like to go to washroom, and I will be right back in 1 minute, probably. I'm back. That is cool. Close gates. Okay, this is how the board is going to look like. A game object is going to look like. We have board move number, moves times, time from the start when the move was played, like we see time for a problem in code forces, white time left for the white player, and time left for the black player. And we also need to know when a move is sent to us, how much time has passed since the last move. It would be moves times. From this, we will take the last element, whatever it is. That was the time then, and what is the time now, and also shade. For reference, we also need the time at which the game began. So, start time, which is going to be date. Shit, if that is going to be date, then what happens in JavaScript if we do date minus date? Node, okay. Let's say A equals new date, undefined. Let B equals new date, undefined B minus A. We get this B. Okay, so we are getting time in higher definition. 5 is the second, and this is what? uh, 93 milliseconds and microseconds. Okay, we are getting time in high definition. Instead of seconds, we can take leverage of that because we like there is legit no problem in storing time in a high definition. Time would be in microseconds. Microseconds. What if we have a very long game? If we have a game, since we can store integers, integer is 10 power 9. So what is the longest time that can come in 10 power 9 microsecond, 10 power 7 seconds? And I think that is quite a long time. Even if we were to have, let's say, 100 seconds, 100 seconds in 1 minute, we would have 10 to the power 5 minutes. And let's say we have 100 minutes in 1 hour, then we would have 10 to the power 3 hours. And if we say, wait, which is just 1 2 3,000 hours, and if we say that there are like 24 hours in 1 day, then this amounts to 40 days. That is pretty long. So we will not run out of space. The thing is, I cannot convert idea to code. You just have to like suck it up and do it one line at a time. Just or you can also start streaming. I was thinking the same, like I would not be able to build something. I still haven't built this chess thing, but at least I'm making progress. You can also start to stream. It puts some pressure on you that you do have to do something every day. It as like at least one line of code you have to do something, and there is some pressure over you. So yeah, streaming, you can do streaming. It is pretty helpful. One minute. Okay, phone is not charging. Shit, okay, this does not happen with my phone. It generally does charge. Okay, yes, cool. Time is in milliseconds. That sounds cool. That sounds cool. That sounds cool. The time that we got Here, let's say A equals new date, B equals, B minus A, 5. We didn't spend 5 seconds. Shit. Yes, we didn't spend 5 seconds. Horses.land. What is the time decision we made on taking difference of two dates in JavaScript? We get 1,000th of a second. 1,000th of a second is a millisecond. So yes, we are getting time in millisecond. That is no problem. Cool. Okay, we are getting time in millisecond. That is cool. Okay. Start time. Start time would be our reference. Start time would be our reference. Okay. Okay. We also have to keep track of increment. Times from the start when the move was played. Okay, cool. This is a game object. Is this enough? This seems to be. Game start. And we also have to initialize this thing. Game object. Should we have to make changes to memory? Yeah. We have to make changes to where are we going to store the object? We will construct a new class. We'll construct a new class. We'll call it shit. We already have constructed a new class. Static game list. Game list would be a list of game objects. We have a game object here and a game object over here. We need the one that is over there in the comments folder. In interfaces here also we have a game object, which is something that we do not want. Okay, a list of game objects. That is cool. Now, if you want to find the game object for some particular user, how do we find that game object? We have it as a list, so we should not have it as a list. We should have game objects as key value pairs where the key would be the user ID, but we have two users. So shit. What would be the key? What should be the key? The key should be game ID. We do not know what the ID for the game should be. The key to fetch a game object from all of the games which are going on right now. I think we can just make it, we can make it the white user key, a semicolon, and then the black user ID, white user ID, semicolon, and black user ID. So this is not going to be a game object list, rather a map where key is string and the value is game object. Cool. static get key. This takes in white user ID, which is a string, and black user ID, which is also of a string, and return white user ID plus semicolon plus black user ID. This is okay. This is okay. This is okay. No problem with this. Yep, we get the key. Get game object. This takes in white user ID, which is a string, and black user ID, which is also a string, and return this dot games list dot get this dot get key, or we can make this a little bit more beautiful. Key would be equal to get key white user ID and black user ID. This dot get key, and then return this dot game list dot get key. This might be undefined, or yeah, this might be undefined or not. And then static set game object. To add a new game object, it requires game ID, white user ID, which is going to be a string, black user ID, which is going to be a string. Or either we take in the game object itself, or we take in the components of game object and initialize them right here, because yes, when we are setting a game user ID, we do not need anything. Yes, this function itself will create a new game object and add those things here. So cons board is init board, get a board, and date now. Get the now date, and what are the other things which are required? Cons key would be this dot get key white user ID, black user ID. We have the key, and let's say games list dot set with this key an object. This thing is missing some stuff. This is missing board, date, start time, which is date, or we can just say here for this thing also start time. Some arguments are missing. Move number, game object. Yep, missing following arguments. These ones are missing. Move number 0 is 0. Move number is 0, and then moves times is supposed to be a list times list 0. Yes, because yes, cool. Then white timeline. Yeah, yes, 0, let's say, and black timeline is time will be a number, and This will be equal to time, and this will be time. Time, time should be in milliseconds. Time would be in milliseconds. Okay, seems good enough. We have initialized an object, get an object, get an object, and everything else will come. Hello. Okay, you are stuck again. That's what she said. Huh? What were you asking in the beginning? I just saw that you read and was asking something, but couldn't hear. Wait, what? Yes, progress bar. If you have a function which displays the progress bar, then how are you defining what the input for the progress bar should be if you do not already know what is the format of the input that you are getting from the Pacman program, which tells you how many of the packages are remaining, right? Okay, well, the only learn to convert idea to code is to go out of your comfort zone and watch others build something, but don't expect them to explain each and every line. And the best way to do would be to read the best. This would not be the best. This would be the best if you are a professional, but if you are starting out, RFC can be overwhelming. It is overwhelming for me even now. Why did I say even now? As if I'm good at this. Or the concept from Wiki, you read from Wikipedia, that is okay, something, and then try to write it as it is. It doesn't need to be perfect in the first try. Yep. Well, I think a new vulnerability is found in next, like every week. I cannot even count how many times it has happened. You will get some video by low level programming. Okay. Okay. Is this done? Yes, this is done. Hmm. Define the static variables and shit. These are not defined. Now it is defined. This will be equal to map string game object new. Okay, I don't think there is commenting. Let's say, okay, I will add comment everywhere. Get key, get the key for a pair of users, and get game object, get the game object given the user IDs, initialize a game object, and add to the games list. Okay, here, okay. Here, in this part, we are starting the game. We are doing a lot of heavy lifting here. What to do? Data dot set. Shit. This thing is being imported here, exported. It should also be imported in database dot in data dot use. Data extends memory. Memory. Import game with G capital. And here's a game. And Now we should be able to get dot set game object. This takes in white user ID, black user ID, and type. We remove the users from the game queue. Add the game object to active games. Comment. Yep, comment. And tell the users that their game has started. And then return, and here we come. Here we come. Get the opponent ID, game object is data dot get game object. White is shake. Yes, who is white? Who is black? Who is to say if color equals color type dot white. We will make it so that the current player is white. Make sure that the current player is white. Okay, Guten Morgen. It is not an opaque type. The structure which stores the information about the package is known from the source code. It is not an opaque type, and I will, yes, that is what I was wondering. And I will create the callback function with the same signatures it expects to receive. There is the function for passing. Yeah. So that is cool. If you know what is given to you by Pacman, in which format the information is given to you by Pacman, then it is cool. Okay, so done, done, done. Whose move? First of all, let's make sure who is who. Color. If the current player is white and black, then user ID. Make user ID, and I think just in shape. Wait a minute, we don't have to say user ID. We can also here let white user ID equals user ID, right? And let black user ID is opponent user ID, and if that is not the case, then switch white user ID and black user ID equals black user ID, white user ID. Okay, there is something wrong with this. This might be null. Who is saying this might be null? Assignable to type is string. Okay, shit. They are saying this might be null. This will not be null. Uh, as cool. Let's go. We can even remove this. Cool. And this thing as Elysia. Let's start it. Can I find name? Now. Okay, okay. Color equals color type dot black. Yep. We now have the white user ID, black user ID. We also have the move. Okay, let's check the move. Once move equals message dot move. We have to specify what the format of this input message is. Yep, and this should be common knowledge. So this will go to common. Game interface move sent sent move. Yes, this will contain move, which is going to be a string of exactly 4 characters. We can just say string, but is that a over? No, that is fine. That is fine. Move is should that is the only thing that is going to be sent. Yeah, move. Cool. And some other information? Nope. That is good enough. And how we say that message should be like move like this. I think. Yeah. Shit, this should be done using Zord. This should be done using Zord. Here we'll define Zord. Type ons move equals z dot z dot object, which has a thing called move, which is of type z dot string dot length is fixed 4. And we can even say some, yep, and this thing will only contain regex, a regex that must be passed by this. Starting from starting starting till the end. A to H, A to H. We already are checking the length, so we don't have to check length. Plus, I think that is cool. There, a move is only going to be depicted by characters from A to H. So if you want to depict a move like from E2 to E4, source to sync, it's like reading someone's GitHub project and doing yourself, right? Yo. Okay, if you want to show a move like this, we will say we have mapped all the numbers to characters A, B, C, D. That is how our move is. So this move would be E, B, E, D. 4 characters from A to H. Move is source to target using task only. Example from E2 to E4. Something like this. E, B, E, D. Okay. Now we actually are at the part where we are going to validate the move. Cool. We have Zord, validate, move, format. Okay. First response is move, send dot, save save parse message. This is not async. This is okay. This is not async. Cool. We have rest now. If rest dot, if not, if not success, if not success, then we will send the same error. ws dot send error true accepted false. Your move is not accepted. Maybe even a message would be cool here. Um, you aren't even playing Pro. And here message would be send the move and correct format. Okay, send the move in the correct format. We have validated the move format. We know the format of the move is correct. We know that the users are playing a game. We know who is white. We know who is black. We also know the time. We have to validate the move now. Move number. Yep. Uh, we do have the object. So wait, we do not have the object. Pause game object equals data dot get game object user ID given the white user ID and black user ID. This could be undefined. This would not be undefined as game object. Yep, treat this as game object. Okay, let moves move number is something, start time is something, and what are the other things? These are all the things. Back, comment, okay. We'll get the board, move number, move times, start time, and white time left, black time left. Okay, we have all the things here. Right, right. Okay, now we have to decide whose move this is. Right. Let current player ID. Whose move is it? Whose move is it? Is it white's move or black's move? Const, const current color equals. We'll see move number, which is initially 0. 0. Take its remainder with 2. Take its remainder with 2 and question mark. Question mark. If the remainder is 1, or if this thing equals 1, then say color type dot black, otherwise color type dot white. Cool. We also know the current pair. Get the game object and the parts members. Find the current color. Okay, we have that. Thought process of writing the code, the writing part itself is easy. Oh, okay, okay. We have the current color also. Cool. What else now? We have the current color. Whose move it is? Done. Validate the move. How are we? And we are going to have now. Yes, validate the move. Validate the move. Okay. So to validate the move, we need three things. What is the current piece? The source square and the target square. Let's get these things. Piece is from the board, go to, and we do know that the move is valid. So that is cool. It, we have to convert that move into indices which we can use in the board. Okay, which means we need a function which takes in the move and converts it, converts the move into the numbers, into the characters. Okay, yes. Helper function, and this is again going to be a common function. Game.ts, game.ts, export a function const which takes in uh, get move stars to index. This takes in a string, and this will just expect that the length is right for this string, and no checking would be done here. If no, this will not expect, let's this will also check if move dot length is not equal to 4, then return null. Otherwise, if that is not the case, then not const First is move bracket 0 minus a. Does that make sense? That does not make sense. Bracket 0, this will give us a, which is a character, and from that character you have to minus a, minus parse int a. The left hand TypeScript, the left hand side of an arithmetic operator must be of type number, begin or an enum. TypeScript object possibly undefined. Move 0 is not undefined. Move length is equal to 4. Move equals move as move sent to what char to ingredients. I think we don't even have characters in JavaScript. This is a character. Number, use number. No, not this. How to get ASCII code. How to ASCII value of char in JS. Prototype code at A, ASCII value, char code at this. ASCII value is equal to 65. For 0, what is 0? Character, okay, character dot char code at 0. Parameter is optional and defaults to 0 if omitted. This thing minus a, not int, but const a code is a dot char code at expected one argument. Okay, we have char code at, and from this subtract a code. Move 0 might be undefined, even though we are giving error if move dot len equals 4, then do this. Here also we cannot do this, even though first we are checking and then we are going. Else return null here. TypeScript, the left hand side of an arithmetic operation must be some number type. But here what we have could be undefined. Shit. This is not going to be undefined. This is not going to be undefined. TypeScript is strange. Here I am only indexing move after checking the site. Uh, PS is still giving me error. Excellent. This is the same underlying issue again, but okay. Now with strings, move this TypeScript complains about this. Why you checked length equals 4. The core problem move is a string and string means a string of any length. When you check length equals 4, the TypeScript does not narrow down the type of move to a character of 4 strings because a string has no length encoded to its type. TypeScript does not track string length. It cannot convert a string. So if we were to say that this is, if I say const a equals a, what is the type of a? Shit, a is a type char. Char does not exist in TypeScript. But there is a even bigger problem. This line move 0 is a string and not a number. You cannot subtract a number. So how do we get dot char code at 0? That makes sense. That thing returns a number. That makes sense. That makes sense. Char code at 0. Okay, that is much better. On second is in the char code at 1 minus a code. You get the index of this. Const third is no dot char code at 2 minus a code and const fourth is no dot char code at 3 minus a code. Okay, okay. And then return first, second, third, fourth. Cool. Yep. Move to char and an opposite function which does the opposite thing. Const moves index to char. This thing takes in a list of number, number, number. Move is of type this, and a string will be returned otherwise. Uh, let response is an empty string initially, and for let x of move, let x of move, we have the index. Okay, if we have a character code, how do we convert code to character in JavaScript? How do we convert that thing into a string from char code? Okay, let a code equals a dot char code at 0. Here rest of push rest dot split trim include dot append add character add concatenate concat, or I think we can just do rest less equals. Does this work? Yep, this works. Okay, so this will be string dot from char code, and the character code is a code plus return address. Okay, return this. Okay, okay. Find the current color with the node indices. Get the new indices. Okay. Const a b c d equals get move char to index and pass in rest dot data dot move, and treat this thing as a list as this. And since we have now used this type twice, we should write this as a actual type interfaces game export const nope export interface not interface type move index equals number 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 number. Import this here and say type of move is move index, and here this thing take this thing as move index. ABCD are declared, but their value is never used. Okay, we have the move. Now, piece. What is going to be the piece? Piece. Get the indices and the piece. Piece is from the board, go to A, B. Object possibly undefined. How? Because A is a random number. That is messed up. That is messed up. That is messed up. That is messed up. Source const source row is mode A. Treat this thing as row. Yeah, makes sense? Makes sense. Source row. Okay. We have the piece. We have to say as piece as piece. So we have the piece and we have the source row and stuff like that. Const the arg row is board ABC as row. Okay, right. Piece What do we have at the source? Let's say source cell target cell does not sound good. Square sounds better. Target square is target row B as pieces. If the target is square and the source is square and the target is square. Get the move indices and the source and target squares. Okay. Now the actual move valid. Shit, this should not be done here. We should have a function which takes in the move, which takes in the move and the color and just validates is this move okay or not. So, and that will come here. Explode is move okay. This takes in board, outside board, move in the index format. In the index, move as a string and then color of type color. Expected comma where? Okay, yes, you would expect comma arrow function. Okay, okay, so yeah, all this games.ts, games.ts, move number, shared. Nope, this will be given to us. We can remove this. Go here, please. Okay, okay. Cannot find boolean. Yes, I did mean. Why do they want move with the underscore? Move is declared, but its value is never used. Can you rename? Cannot B double O L E A N L E A N. Return root. Okay. Cannot find row. Import type row. Now you do know what is meant by row. Res.data.move. Nope. We have the move. Okay. Get the indices and the source target squares. Now we have the source target square. First of all, we have to make sure that if source square equals pieces dot nm, return false. if source is and then if source square color shade white pieces. So yes, how do we make the connection between white pieces? White pieces and the color white. They are different enums. Okay, I was reading through the C standard. Okay, as one does, it said that doing pointer arithmetic isn't allowed. It is allowed, but it is not recommended. But most of the compilers support it because GCC had some mechanism to handle that. But it is okay. Cliffhanger. Discouraged. Yes, it is discouraged. And it was quite funny to me. Imagine being such a big project that the language you compile is forced to change the rules. Mm, yeah, great man, great things. Okay, how do we know whether a piece is white or black? We have no idea whether a piece is white or black. We legit have no idea whether a piece is white or black. We will like, of course, manually have to say export enum piece color. Piece color. Can we say here? Piece. Is this okay? An enum member must be followed by a TypeScript. An enum member must be followed by this. You mean, I think if we put this like okay, computed instead of enum, yes, we can create a map here. We can have a map which would take in the piece and give us the color. Export pieces color is a new map. A new map. Can we give in the properties like we cannot? Export cost. How to initialize a map in. Wait, why do we need a map? We can just use an object. On pieces color equals an object where pieces dot white bishop has the value color bar white and okay white bishop and then white knight, white king, white queen, white pawn, all have the value white. And then here substitute white with black, not globally. because byte is nothing. But since we are using Vim, cool. That's the white pieces. That's the black pieces. Okay, we have a way of getting to a piece from a place. Okay, is piece empty? Now is pieces color the right color? Question one. Is source square empty? Is pieces color the right color? It would be pieces color given the piece. Source square. If this is not equal to the color, then also return false. What has element has implicitly type any because expression of this is of type color. This thing I guess has type any. Source is a piece, so this is the part which has type any. So we have to give in the type to the object here. Number. Okay, that is why we need a map here. That is why we need a map. Nope. It is strictly illegal to do pointer arithmetic. Illegal. Um, okay, in C's standard, it is said that it is illegal, but GCC is saying we are going to make it legal. We are going to treat pointers as numbers. And void pointers always increase by one. Okay, what do you mean by one? Like if you do I plus plus and I is int, then it will increase by 4. Uh, why? If I is int, I will become I plus 1. It will not increase by 4 generally, but with void pointers, they increase by 1. Crash your program if you try to, and would crash dereference it as long as you don't dereference. Nowhere will you get any errors or even warning. Yeah, because it will, I think it will, it is called demotion, I think, where a pointer is demotes to a simple number, and if you have a standard array, it demotes, or a list of some type, that list of some type demotes to a pointer to the type of element that were in the list. So a list of integer demotes to a pointer to an integer when you pass it through functions. Okay, and we have to use map here. How to initialize map? Map in JavaScript. Map constructor. Okay, we have to manually set. Find initialize. Okay. Dot entries for object. Okay. Color pieces object. Right. And then export const color pieces and map or form number to number object dot dot entries for piece color object. Oh, shit. TypeScript no overload matches this. If we were to remove this, then it will appear. I guess we will have to define the map and then manually add the keys. Pieces set key is pieces dot like that, and it says color dot white. Okay. Mm, knight, bishop, shape, rook, bishop, queen, king, pawn, and then here instead of substitute white with black, and here for all these substitute this with this. Okay, pieces dot get is not equal to color, then return. Okay. Uh, okay. Okay. Now more validation. The source square cannot be empty. The source square should have the correct color. Now, what else? There should not be any pieces in the middle. If it is a knight, then there are other rules. So if piece, if source square, if source square equals pieces dot either white knight or black knight. If it is a knight, white knight or so square equal pieces dot black knight. The piece is a white knight or a black knight, then the only thing that we have to check, and yes, we will check about whether the player is in check or not in check. How about doing your next project in C? You will learn exponentially more than what you are learning from. I am learning quite a lot from this. Like, yes, I am learning quite a lot from this also. Uh, okay, if the yeah, so first we will validate if the move is physically correct, and then we will check, see whether the king is in check, or maybe, yeah, the other rules, other edge cases, like you cannot move a piece if your king is in check. You cannot move some random piece. Okay, so if the piece, current piece is a knight, then the target, the only thing that we have to check for right now, for now, is that the target is that the target is not, does not have the same color as this source piece does. Okay, if this, and if source is square color, uh, this is color, color for the target square. Shit, I have not mapped null to any color. Null can be treated as a random color. Okay, dot set pieces dot nn dot random as a placeholder color. Implicitly has type any, who has type any, pieces dot get shit. If color dot get the color for target square. If this target square color equals the same color as the current piece, then return false. I think there is nothing else that we should verify in this case. Return false. Okay. Else, if the piece is not knight, if the piece is not knight, then shit. First of all, this is a general thing to check. Target can have the same color as the source square. Right. And if the piece is not a white knight and not a black knight, that means the piece is something else. In which case, we, okay, at this point, we know the current piece, we know the target, and we know that the current and the target do not match in color, and the color of the current piece is the color that it is supposed to be. Now we have to see, for these things, there cannot be any other piece in the middle of the current piece and the target piece. And the only moves which are left, since we have checked that the current piece is not a knight, then the only possible moves are either horizontal, vertical, or like straight line moves, or diagonal moves. These are the only moves possible, which we have to check for now. Like, wait, how much? Okay, how about doing? Okay, shit, this is from before. Okay, now first let's check for horizontal movement. This this movement, there is this movement, then there is this movement, then there is this movement. Let's check for horizontal movement. Uh, make sure no pieces are between the target and the source horizontally. What does that mean? Horizontally, if this the movement would be horizontal if their row is same, but their column if is different. If A equals B, if A equals C, and B is not equal to D, it's not equal to D. And shit, we also have to make sure that this piece, okay, yes, shit, there are like shit, so many things. When we know that the current movement is horizontal, how many pieces can do this horizontal movement? A rook or a queen. For this vertical movement, a pawn, a rook, a queen, or king also. Here also, a king can also do this. This queen and bishop and king. This one also, queen, bishop, and king. These two movements, queen, bishop, king. Up this. Yep. Okay. So horizontal movement. We also have to make sure that the source, at least, yeah, the source and the target are not the same squares. Source and target squares must be different. So if A equals C and shit, yeah, A, B, C, D, this is not working out. We should instead of this say source X, source row, source column, uh, target row, target column. If source is row and target row, source square, source column, so target column. Yeah, that is going too far above. Shanice, scroll off. Okay, 15, 10. Now, if we go 10 places, yep, this is starts moving. That is good. But if we are at the bottom, this will not move. Wait, where are we? Game.ts is move. Okay, yes. Go down here. Now, source and target cannot be equal. If source row equals target row and source column equals target column, then also return false. Yep. And now for horizontal movement. For horizontal movement, row must be same source row equals target row and source column is not equal to target column. That is what we call a horizontal movement. Now, if we have made a horizontal movement, there is only rook, queen, and king who can make a horizontal movement. Playing chess or coding? Coding. Me coding right now. Coding chess. There cannot be yep, horizontal. We need another enum. We need another enum. We need another enum. Export enum pure pieces without any racism. Rook, knight, bishop, king, uh, king, and then queen, and also pawn. And we need something, a little something that takes in a piece which has color and gives us a piece which does not have color. So that we are purely talking in terms of pieces. Export, const, pure piece, pieces, map, pure pieces map, pieces, color map, shape. Okay, this is Vim. This is Vim. So cool. This color map. Cool. And well, here pieces, pure pieces map, new map, number, two, number. Just initialize it. And now we have to say your pieces map or set if pieces white white rook. If white rook, then your pieces dot rook. Rook. Cool. Let's say this. And also for black and rook, and then knight. Here also knight, and then knight, bishop, bishop, queen, queen, king, king, pawn, hit, capital P, 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 P. Okay. Black, knight, white, bishop, bishop, black, Q, Q, B, K, K, B, B, pawn, pawn. Okay. Let's get the pure piece. Pure piece is move. Okay, piece and everything. We got the piece and everything. Yes, we are expecting that the move is okay. There is no problem with the move. Okay, what do we map the null piece to? NN to means null piece would be treated as we can add another pure piece there. NN. Okay. Piece is your pieces map this of get source sources where. Cannot find in pure pieces map. Import that thing as pure pieces. Cool, cool. That is some progress. Okay, if there is a horizontal movement, then the pure piece can only be a rook, a king, or a queen. Okay, if piece is not equal to pure piece dot rook, or piece is not equal to, wait, I think we can say if piece not not in, if piece in pure pieces dot rook, pure pieces dot queen, pure pieces dot queen. If not in, this thing is wrong. Then make sure piece time piece movement is allowed. Shade piece movement is allowed or not. For night we didn't check if the piece movement is allowed or not. And yep, here also we can change this. If piece is not equal to your piece is not night. Okay, let's first check, make sure that the movement is that the piece can move like that. If piece is a knight, if piece is a knight, for a knight there are 8 possible moves, and yep, and there are 8 possible moves only for a knight. Okay, we will go through. We do not have to manually write them. For and let x of 1.2, when the one is 1, okay, then let y equals 3 minus x. Okay, so if x is 1, y is for a, right? If x is 1, y is 2. If y is 1, x is 2. Okay, let y equals this. Okay, we have this, and now we have to decide whether to add, subtract, what to do for all of these combinations of x and y. There are going to be four combinations here. No shit, there are just going to be two combinations. X1, Y2 and X2, Y1. Just two combinations. So here we need a loop for let dx of -1 or 1, 2 for let dy or -1, 1. Okay, now the target. Possible equals false. Now, if source row plus dx into x equals target row, and at the same time source column plus dy into y equals target column, then yeah, we have a hit. We say possible equals true and break. Even though this will not break out of the all of the for statements, we have like three for statements. It is fine because there are going to be this thing will only be checked 8 times, so we don't actually have to break. It is fine. So if not possible, then return false. Okay. If the piece is knight, we have made sure that this particular move can be made by a knight. Okay. Okay. Then I guess we should just shade. We have not considered about castling, castling, castling. Okay, if piece, if your piece equals now, if your piece equals your piece dot knight, rook or queen, or piece equals queen. And there is some mistake somewhere. Piece color like this. Wait. Pieces color. There are two mistakes. Pieces color map. Pieces color map. Okay. Pure piece. If the pure piece is a rook, horizontal or vertical movement. So if source row equals target row, then the difference, yes, we do know that the source and target are within the correct thing. Correct. Uh, so if source row shade. Okay. We cannot check for queen also here. We have to check separately. If source row is not equal to target row, and at the same time column row is also not equal to, what is column row? Source column is not equal to target column. That means we have made a vertical move which is not possible to return false. Check for a for a knight bishop. How do we check for a bishop piece? Implicates your pieces of p bishop straight. We don't actually have to use these small letters like B, and it is fine. It is fine. B and all that. Fine. We can use the whole name, but it's also fine. Okay, B if pure piece. B if the current piece is a bishop, then the slope slope has to be 1. Let dx equals math what absolute value of source row. Row is x. Row is y. Source row minus target row, and let d equals math dot absolute source column minus target column. This should be equal. If dx is not equal to dy, return false. When a bishop moves, it, yeah, the number of squares it is going through and the number of columns it is going through is same. So the difference in squares and columns should be equal to each other. Okay. Pawn, we will come to pawn later. Queen. For piece equal, if the current piece is a queen, then either the movement expected this. Wait, what? If queen, then either, so um horizontal falls and not horizontal vertical, straight equals false and diagonal equals false. Let's check for straight movement like a rook. If they are not equal, then wait, if this thing is false, if source row equals to this or columns are equal, in either case we will say straight equals true. There has been a straight movement, and if check for straight move, check for diagonal move. D is capital and S is not, so we make D small. For diagonal, the same concept. You won't return anything. If both of them are equal to each other, then diagonal equals true. Now either the queen can move diagonally or straight. If both of them are false, if not straight and not diagonal, then return the false. Okay, queen also done. Check for king. If piece equals or pieces dot king. If the current piece is a king, then let's see. We need these two things: the movement made in x direction and the movement made in y direction. If dx plus dy is not equal to 1, then return false. That is it for king. And for pawn, pawn. If piece equals or piece dot pawn, if the current piece is pawn, okay, either once or twice. Yo, yes. Thorfinn. Thorfinn is one of the best characters ever. Thorfinn, legit. Like jokes apart, yes, Thorfinn is one of the best characters ever, but he's too idealistic. He will run away, but how for how long can he run away from fighting? Eventually, he will have to fight. Pick up the sword and fight. Piece, if your piece is a pawn. Okay, so now we have to check which row we are at. If the pawn is just starting out, and yes, we are assuming this function is assuming that the board that is given to us is correct. It is not an invalid board. So the if the pawn is just starting out, then source row in, if source row in, so source row is either 1 or 6. And this is not magic number because this is not magic number, hopefully. 1 or row size minus 2. Yes, 1 or the second last. The second row, or we are at the second last row. If we are at the second or the second last row, then we are just starting out. In this case, the movement can be either 1 or 2 moves. 1 or 2 moves. First of all, or before even that, we should check only vertical movement is allowed. Only vertical movement is allowed. If source source column is not equal to target column, if we are changing column, then return false. Okay, after this point, we know that it is the target, it is the row that is changing. So, and not C++, let be x or the distance equals math dot absolute source row minus target row. Right. With this, then dist and dist in. Okay. If row is 1 or 2, okay, that means we are starting out. If we are starting out and distance is not equal to 1, distance is not equal to 1, and distance is not equal to 2, then return false. Else, else if we are not starting out, then shade. We also have to check the direction depending on the color. If it is a black pawn, then he only moves in one direction. Yeah, shade. We also have to check the direction. So we will not speak absolute maths. Okay, here we are checking the magnitude. For magnitude, we will say math, not absolute, absolute distance, or we can just say let const magnitude equals math dot absolute distance, and here magnitude, and here magnitude. Okay, if magnitude does not match, for this return false, and for else magnitude, if yes, else if magnitude is not equal to 1, then return false. Check the magnitude. Okay, and here check the direction. If color equals color dot, we have to import color type. Import. We have imported color type. Shit. Uh, let's say that this thing is colors. What does it break? Shit, that is the only thing that was broken. Okay. If color equals colors are white. If the color is white, then the direction should be positive. If the color is white and dist smaller than 0, then return false. Else if color equals else if the color is black, distance must be positive. uh, Color is black, in which case distance must be negative, but if it is positive, then return false. Okay. Looks good enough. You have checked all the moves that the moves should be possible. There are two special moves which are not considered. One is en passant, and the other is castling. Okay, but that is my limit. I will like rest now. I will go to the dungeons and sleep. Okay, and yep, that would be it for today's stream. 3 hours. There is also, yes, and after this, I might do another stream for the contests which I have not given. Yet there are two contests remaining. One is this one. This is 3 hours long shit, and the other one this. Wait, maybe I might not. Yeah, it is. Okay, yep, I will also do a stream for this maybe tomorrow. But for this, I will do a stream today later on. So for which I will have to go now. Bye. Yo, hello, long time no see. You are coming at the end, which is a very true statement. You should come at the end. And yep, with that, that would be it for today. And thank you for being here. Bye.